Consejo de Resistencia en Defensa del Inmigrante te invita este 1 de mayo en Chicago a la marcha en defensa del inmigrante para una reforma migratoria. La marcha inicia a las 11 de la mañana. Comenzamos en Union Park, 1501 al west de la calle Randolph y terminamos en el Grand Park, 337 al este de la calle Randolph. Unidos no seremos vencidos. No nos vamos. Pasa la voz. Te invita el Consejo de Resistencia en defensa del inmigrante.
This is DLFM Online Radio Station Chicago. Dimensión Latina FM Radio TV. Baja nuestra aplicación a través de tu iPhone o Android. Búscanos como Dímela FM. Búscanos en TuneIn Radio como Dimensión Latina FM y visita nuestra página web dimelafm.com.
Yes, definitely. We're going to start. Hello, everyone. This is ELSA PRADO with Wings of Love. Today, we have a special program for you because we're bringing you Frez Oquendo, heavyweight boxing champ. And he is from he's been here in Chicago and raised here and everything. So I always call him one of Chicago's very own. Welcome, Frez. How have you been? Tell us a little bit about you. I know that you won your National Golden Gloves, and now you've been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Tell us a little bit about, what life was for you growing up, and then, of course, so our audience gets a little bit of who you are.
Cool. Good seeing you again, Elsa. It's always a pleasure. I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and then I came here to Chicago when I was a year old, and here I am, decades later, and making history in the communities.
Yes.
And now with my foundation, now that I'm in the Hall of Fame, just happy that you all got me on air and spreading the good word.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of times things go like not noticed. But I think it's worthy of letting our community know, in Chicago, what you do for the community, because as I have understood, the life in Chicago isn't always easy for children growing up, and it's tough, being a youth in the city.
Yes, that's so true, because I was one of those youth when I was, a kid, try to find myself. Not only that, the area where I grew up, my upbringing was pretty harsh, growing up in the Chicago housing projects, Latham Home. But I, with a proud face, I always represent where I'm from, because my people there, the poor area, they always represented me as a kid. I remember coming home after winning the National Golden Glove. All my people, just thanking me, celebrating that, I put this, community on the map, in the national stage at a young age as a teenager.
And a lot of times our youth think that they can't come out of those neighborhoods. A lot of times there's this idea that you're kind of stuck in these areas, and it's not true, because you made it happen for yourself. So tell us how you did go about in taking those steps in coming out of the community and making a name for yourself and becoming a legend in boxing.
It's so unfortunate what you just said. It is accurate and it's true, because I was almost a victim of that. But of course, being in sports, any sport, not just boxing, basketball, baseball, all sports.
Right.
Sports is a great outlet, especially when you live in, how we say, in the concrete jungle. Housing projects, we don't got too much, either gangs, drugs, doing negative things, whatever that is. And boxing was my outlet. And, growing up, and reminded me, because I was in the cusp of, either joining a gang or, being a bona fide drug dealer and all that. And, and it almost took, my career. And my life, and here I am, telling about the community, because that's so important when you make these, career defining, life, lesson, moves of doing the right thing. Because I could have made that one move and I won't be here talking to you. But yeah, it's a great thing, especially coming from the community and never forgetting where you came from. And I feel great, going back. Even though I don't live in that area, but I always find it, from God's work to go back to my communities. And here I am, years later, doing that. Preaching what I speak and do, and it makes these kids put a smile on their face and give them second chances. I'm a champion of second chances because I was one of those kids. I didn't think I ever have a chance, but I did get that second chance. And seeing my big brother Hector Morales ended up, being an attorney. He was my inspiration. Of starting the game. He used to always come home bringing trophies and inspiring me, to show my mom that I want to be like my big brother and bring trophies and show my mom that I could do that too.
And you did, right? You eventually, landed the National Golden Gloves, and Mom was there for you and supporting you and being there for you. Just tell us how important support is from your parents when you're growing up, and how important it is to have that for you when you're in this situation.
Oh, it's very important. I mean, you can have all these friends, whatever, but what's very important is having your mom, your dad, your siblings, in your corner during those times, because when you're in that ring, ain't nobody but you and your opponent. And what gives me the feel, and I'm pretty sure other fighters as myself, is having the family be there to show them that all this hard work, dedication, sacrifice, sweat, blood, and tears is going to pay off. And that was a big difference. As you can see, my mom, hugging me, just proud of her son, coming from, at the time, third world country, Puerto Rico, born there, but giving me hope, coming to the land of opportunities, America. And here I am, making history and for other kids, and I thank my parents, especially my mom, my dad. My dad's not here nowadays, may God bless his soul, but he was a architect of where I am today.
What are the things, or I would say, the pillars of the foundation that make Fresno Cuendo? Like, what are the pillars your dad instilled in you?
Oh, when I was young, I never kind of quite understand, because being a little kid, and I was a daddy's boy. He used to give a lot of kids in the community in the Homer Park area candy, he'd give them a little, money, a little change here. I used to get a little jealous. No, I want all that, My dad taught me to, not only to be a giver, but, never, forget about others, kids that are, underprivileged, as we were. And he was right, and here I am, decades later doing my dad's work. He's in heaven right now, looking on it, underneath me, and behind, and seeing all the good work that I'm bringing forth because of his knowledge of instilling in his son, me. And man, it's a great, great honor and privilege to be here, put a smile on the kid's face.
Definitely. Tell us about FOBA.
Fresno Cuendo Boxing Academy. It's something like, my dad and I orchestrated, and here we are since 2009. Still, reaching out to not only the communities, the schools, the Chicagoland area, worldwide, from Puerto Rico, from the hurricanes, and, Mexico, Ecuador. I keep going. I've been blessed with this journey that God put me in front to not forget those underprivileged, kids that don't have second chances. And that's my passion. I may not be able to save the whole world. I may not be able to, save the whole country or whatever. But if I change one kid and do a good thing for one kid, I did my deed. And that's my passion. And that's what FOBA is about, preventing youth violence through boxing. Because, I could have been one of those victims. But, boxing gave me that second chance and hope.
And with your boxing academy that you have for the youth, which I think is very impressive, given, the time that it takes and that it requires to have it.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? It's not easy.
No, it's not, because a lot of these kids that we service, and underprivileged, at-risk youth, I was one of those kids. A lot of those kids are in the gangs, a lot of them hanging out with knuckleheads, smoking weed and not doing their schoolwork, cutting school and all that. And I was a product of that. So now with my programs, we prevent all that. And we seen these kids that was having a hard time when I went to the charter schools. I speed up of Illinois, one of those great schools that was, founded by a Puerto Rican lady, Pantoja, who, the icon of the Puerto Rican community and worldwide and Latin nations. And here I am working in her schools that she founded, and I'm changing lives. I'm changing kids' ways, from being gangbangers, drug dealers, not doing their homework, not going to school. Teens, 15, 16, and boxing gave them hope, gave them a challenge, the discipline,
Right.
The art, the lost art, protecting them so they ever get engaged, protecting their, their little bodies. So,
Right.
And we have other programs, for not just the, the art of, the sports science, we do mental health, financial literacy, yoga, stuff like that. So important, for the whole community and whole life, for the kids, because not just boxing, we got other integral parts in their lives so they can be successful when they get in their adulthoods.
How are you raising your kids today, knowing what you know now as a father?
Oh, gotta be in their lives, gotta be committed, gotta, guide them to the right. And, I had to sacrifice, my body, my mind and soul. So my kids have a good, upbringing, unlike myself. And I feel great, I feel, God did me a good thing, deed, because, what I'm doing now. And now my kids, all they hear about my, I'm like a folklore legend, because when they hear about their dad, myself, in the community, and I bring them back to the housing projects, to Hamlin Park, in the inner cities, that they hear about their dad, that, man, he was a bad man. Oh, man, Freddie used to, whoop all these, knuckleheads, these bullies, and he used to, it's great that my kids hear these stories, because it makes them, more positive and doing positive things for others, when they encounter situations, stuff like that.
And then here you are, decades later, Hall of Fame.
Man, it's all the hard work, through the sport of boxing and giving back to the sport and to our people, and especially to the youth, because, they don't have opportunities like this. I didn't have opportunity like that. Thank God, even though I was in the housing projects, but seeing my brother, who was older than me, found an outlet, and that was boxing. And I used to see him bringing those trophies, and not too many kids get that opportunity. I was happy to be one of those kids that had that vision and that opportunity when I was, a 13-year-old kid.
Definitely. And I'm sure it feels very rewarding to see some of your own students make a success out of their lives.
Oh my God, I was so happy when I seen Madi. She's one of my students, girl who's going through a lot of trials and tribulations. Seeing her put her cap and gown, and many others, after her, it's like, wow, it brings joy to me. And it's like one of my kids, one of my own. And just seeing that, and to this day, I still keep in contact with them, making sure they're doing the right thing, and if they need any advice, they can always call me. So I'm like the father figure to them. Oh, that's very, very inspiring that I'm able to tell these kids in the past, and nowadays they still reach out to me for advice.
Isn't it great though that they can, still come back and you're still kind of like that father figure, that you can still have the wisdom for them?
Oh man, it's great, yeah, because like I said, I'm only a phone call away, and some of them come back to the boxing big, in the sweet side. A lot of them are in their 20s now, they're older, and they always have a home with me.
About that.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I believe that they'll be like those children, that you've made on earth, and the day will come where you will still have them, as like these kids that will always look up to you.
Oh
that
yeah, like I said, my
made a
door's always
huge
open.
difference and turned their lives around. And that's really the purpose of living. You're living with
Yep,
purpose, and
that's
the
true.
purpose of your life and your mission, your life's mission. A lot of times people don't understand what that means, but I hope that even your students and people that follow you are watching this, because it makes such a huge difference when you can pull yourself out of a bad situation and turn it into a good one.
Yes, because I didn't have that back in my days. Second chances are rare to come, but nowadays just being a part of having these programs and putting a smile on these kids and seeing them, come to my gym, just say hi, how you been? You're in college now, you're doing great. And I mean, I love it. It's just a passion of mine to see that.
So, do you get to go to a lot of graduations?
Yes, I was several of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. In the Homo Park community, we went to Clemente, Abisu Campo, this charter school that they have kids, going to high school. So I had a couple of my students that graduated from that, and it's
Hmm.
great that they're doing positive.
That's excellent. What are you planning now? Like, what's next for you?
You know, I'm kind of dibbing and dabbing. A lot of you know, like social media fighters and stuff. I think about doing a little exhibition. Something. I'm still young. I'm still in good health. I'm only,
Yes.
I feel good. Even though I'm in my 50s, but health is wealth, and I love to entertain. I miss the sport. I love the square ring, and I miss it dearly. And maybe I could, get a fight or two, exhibition or something like that soon.
Hmm. So, like, what is there like a cutoff time for boxing?
No, no, no cutoff time. I mean, look at Mike Tyson. He's had that fight with Jake Paul, and the bad thing about it, he wasn't 100% prepared, but he ended up making like 25 million, and all that. But a good thing, everybody was healthy. Everybody left unhurt, and that's what it is. Everybody enjoyed it.
Hmm. So, what would you say is the advice that you find now with all this wisdom that you now have? What would you say is like the advice that you could give our youth?
Oh, it's very important. Always listen to your elders, your teachers, your parents. Um, if you don't never hold stuff in. If you feel like you need an outlet, reach out to those close ones to you, especially your parents. That's not a mistake that I did in the past and caused me, to go away for a little bit in my
Hmm.
time as a teenager. I did time, and don't never give up hope. Like me, look at me now. I had a second chance, and the governor pardoned me. I got a clemency. I got no background, no record. 'Cause back in the day, living in a project, you saw, drugs and guns and stuff like that. And that was me. But now I have all that squashed from my record, and here I am. Just not only a public figure, but a counselor, a mentor, an advisor to the youth, to our future.
And it's so important. And I think that that's what you represent, that you can do it. It is doable. And that this isn't a lifetime trap as some people see it. You know what I mean? Some people have that kind of like thinking. It's the thinking, right? The mindset,
Yes, it's like
right? It's the
boxing.
mindset.
Yes, that's 100%. You're so accurate because I tell my students, boxing is 80% mental, only 20% physical. Because once your mind goes, I mean, it ain't nothing coming back. You gotta always strengthen your mind in boxing training. Oh, let me do 1 minute more, one round more. It's all in the mind. Your physical, will come next. That's 20% of it, but the majority of it is in your mind. If you go in the ring, oh man, I don't think I could do. Oh, I don't know if I could go 2, 3 rounds. Oh, I don't know if I can go 12 rounds. You lost right there. I mean, you'll go in that ring, get hurt, and that's a wrap. So yes, the mental aspect is so important.
And not only that, how about not only but just being able to have that control of yourself,
Oh yes,
right?
yes, because mental health is a huge thing in the boxing community now. A lot of these kids, a lot of people, even myself in the past, probably, broke down and needed to speak to someone, talk to someone, and I held all that within. But that is such a serious, situation. The mental health of
Mm-hmm.
boxing students, kids, period. That's why I'm a big advocate of that, of mental health. That's so important for
It
our
is.
youth.
And wouldn't you agree with me that it isn't addressed the way it should be? I mean, mental health is really neglected in our entire world, I would say.
Oh, big time. I mean,
It's neglected, I mean, so much that you wonder how some people even get by to live like a somewhat, decent life.
it's so true because some of them don't make it, believe it. I had several friends that, with all the stress and, depression and all that, they took their own life. I mean, they're not here with us today. I mean, I just had recently, several, one of my, childhood buddies, he's not here with us, actually getting ready to go to a funeral this weekend. And now that you mentioned the mental health, that's a major
Yes.
part, that's
Yes.
this, I'm an advocate of that. And that is so accurate what you just said.
And I have to bring it up because I really believe right now our country itself, even just having to deal with the current status of our world, right?
Hmm.
I'm assuming that a lot of people just need that outlet more than ever.
Oh, yeah, you hit it out the ballpark with that because that means so much. I mean, we all need to be united. We all gotta make, common sense decisions. I mean, not just because it it was like this from back in the day. No, times change. We all change. Times change. So it's so important, to to have common sense and do the right thing for the community, for the people that need this very important issue.
Absolutely. And I really feel that that's one of the valuable things that you're contributing at this time because
Thank you.
like you said, you're providing a huge outlet, so that means that a lot of these kids that are in your academy are having the outlet just to be able to improve their mental health, their emotional health. When at this particular juncture, so many kids are so lost because they don't have that.
And you're right. It's interesting because all the parents, they call me. A lot of they're having a hard time with their own kids, with their own son, their own daughter. So they reach out to
Yes.
it, and I tell them all, please do never hesitate. Here's my number. There's no reason why you shouldn't talk to me. And thank God, I'm able to, you know, help a lot of these parents, to cope with their kids' situation. And I feel so valuable, in their lives because of that. And it's all the change in society that we gotta have common sense. I mean, do the right thing. I mean, one kid bought a gun and at a box. I mean, what are you doing bringing a gun in a box? I mean, ain't nothing happening. I mean, you gotta be
Exactly.
positive. Common sense stuff like that. And
Right.
there's certain people will be like, oh, well, we gotta protect ourselves. He's walking. Thinking about this. No, no, that's just not the way things should be. I mean, you got the different prescriptive in the mind. Their parents or whoever advising them. Different times. You can't just think like that. We gotta change that mindset. And I totally agree with you.
Yep, it's incredible, right? The
Yes.
way it just you go from one stage of life into another and then another. But in the same time, what do you think is the ingredient right there?
Again, it's so important to always, you know, fill them out. I mean, let them, reach out to whoever they need to reach out to, to hear them out. That's so important, man. Because sometimes when you don't hear them out and you just brush them off, the results could be very terrible. And that's so important. I always have hope. I'm a champion of second chance, like I said before, and that's so important.
So that comes to one conclusion in my mind. Even your kids sometimes need second chances.
100%.
You know
100 to
what I'm
this day.
saying?
Yes.
Because so many, I hate to say it, there's so many kids that get disowned by their own parents.
Yes.
And so many kids get shut out by their own parents because they're not the perfect little model children that the expectation, is there. You know what I mean? The
You know,
expectation
100%.
that
That's
was
where I
laid
come
out.
in. Exactly. And that's why I come in and talk to these parents, to explain to them, hey, I was one of those kids. You can't just, degrade them. I mean, that's so important. This part of their lives, they need that mental aspect of positivity, of enhancing that. Because if not, I mean, they're going to be having repercussion. Something, terrible can happen. And I agree with you 100%.
Yep. And it's just interesting how we keep always going to the same thing because so many kids are not really lost. They just need somebody to listen to them. And one of the things that I really am enjoying right now about our program today is that this is about our youth. And, once upon a time, you were that youth kid that just needed somebody to hear him out, somebody to listen to you and be able to be that bridge so that you could get to this part where you are today.
And I'm a perfect example of that. And you could have said it better. And that's why it's passionate to me, to my
Yeah.
foundation, to my academy, to do this with our youth. To again prevent youth violence through whatever it is. If it's sports, entertainment, art. I mean, it's so valuable that they do and give them that attention that they seek.
They do. They just need it so much. And that's why I am so grateful that you are collaborating with me today on Wings of Love because right now, I hate to say it or bring it up, but I mean, our current government situation is just awful for the youth, for the kids.
It's interesting you say that because I was speaking to a couple of other of my associates, and I'm not really deep into that politics stuff like that, but it's for the youth, for the kids. I mean, I'm a champion of that. I even went to the Capitol a month or so ago, to speak to some of my constituents, some of these senators and reps and all that, to let them hear me
Yes.
out. And some of them did. Some actually from the city,
Yes.
and Mr. Sims, one from the South Side, his state senator, and he reached out and said,
Yes.
man, we need to get these programs, my boxing program, they kind of held me down for the last year. So,
Right.
I had a student that passed away, actually, a friend of mine's son, from gun violence. If I would have had my
Yes.
program, that could have prevented that, And
Right.
and I went to the Capitol during Black History Month in February last month and
Right.
explained to these senators and these reps of, man, we got to have these programs in our community. And they agree, but agreeing and doing it is two different things. So that's where I'm gonna see if they come through, for the kids, not me, not you, but
Definitely.
for the
Right.
kids.
I mean, exactly. We're older already. We're middle-aged people, but
Right.
there's
Mhm.
still a lot of children that we have to be there for
Yes.
because the youth do rely on people like us that
Mhm.
we can help them because if the government itself is starving children now and taking everything away from them and they can't even go to school with a full belly because everything that they had is now being ripped away from them, what is going to be the expectation, because obviously the average child is not the billionaire's child.
And that's so true because, again, I got a nice social following and stuff like that because of my background and all the good stuff that I'm doing in the community. So that alone, I'm surprised that I didn't get a lot of these politicians, attention of doing something for the kids, for the youth. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the main thing, and that's why I'm kind of, kind of sensitive with that situation. I just think about for the kids, and some of them may be on board. Some of them, like you said, they just stuck on knucklehead stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. Well, I really hope a lot of the parents do continue to contact their representatives, the legislators, and continue to help these children because we really have to be there for them. And I'm glad that you did. I'm glad that, if they don't hear it from a person like you, sometimes they don't believe that they actually do take your questions, that the legislators do actually listen to what you have to say, and the issues and concerns that you pose to them are actual things that's what they are serving the communities for.
Right.
They're
That's so
public
true.
servants. They are
Hmm.
public servants, and they're supposed to take care of the American citizens.
You're so right, because I hope they're watching this show. Some of the senators that I spoke with. Hopefully this goes
Yes,
for a long way, and I hope they're hearing me out, because at the end of the day, it's just what's right for the communities, and for us as people to unite, black, white, green, purple. It's all
doesn't matter,
walking.
right? It's
It,
not about color. There's
exactly. It's about decency, human rights. I mean, just common
exactly.
sense.
Yes, absolutely. Just average human rights, just to be able to be a human.
That's it. That's all we ask
It's
for.
that simple, allowing people to just be human.
That's it. Yeah, and the people that's helping them, they're abiding by the rules and regulations for the state, and by the law. We shouldn't be questioning or even giving a hard time to get these programs started, and that's what I've been running into lately, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? I mean, it's why are we stripping children of everything? That's the part I do not understand. Okay, so you guys are billionaires. I get that part.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
all these children that cannot work and fend for themselves, why are you stripping them away from their just being able to eat?
The train of thought, I guess, is totally different. The common sense is shot. A lot of people may have all this and that, but once you don't have no common sense, yeah, I keep my guards up with those type of
Right?
individuals.
I get it. Yep. I totally understand that piece. It's totally, I don't know. I mean, people just have to rise up. People have to continue to defend the children of this nation, because if we adults don't take care of the children of this nation, if we
Yeah.
don't take care of our own backyard, then what are we made of? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yes.
Hmm.
And when we have, now even the civil rights leader, that was taken away. For what reason?
Yeah, you're right. Yes, it's just a lot of that going on, and like I said, the political spectrum, I don't know too much dib and dab in it. I stay away from that, because at the end of the day, I did it on my own dime, and my private, donors, the majority of my, income, and I appreciate, the people, who got,
Right.
common sense. I mean, forget me. It's about the kids. At the end of the day,
About
the
the
kids.
kids, yeah.
That's it.
Yep, absolutely.
Hmm.
Well, we're running out of time, but I believe that the message is out, that we have at least been able
Thank you.
carry out, some of the message to our people, our community. Our area in Chicago is very huge, and we have a huge population of people that need help like the one that you provide.
And I
And there's
think,
so many kids that just need us, that need to take care of them.
and again, I thank you for having me in your show to spread these words. Like I said, it's so important. And again, I could be found at social media, my Instagram, Facebook, Frez Okendo. FOBA Foundation is my my foundation to help these underprivileged, at-risk youth. And again, I appreciate you so much also for spreading the good word and what my foundation does for the youth.
Absolutely. And I wanted to share that, because not only does your story talk about how you evolved
Yep.
from a bad situation, and you made yourself truly, will now become a legend
Thank you.
for many, so it's so important. And it's always about the hope
Right,
that is
exactly.
still there, right? And there's
Exactly.
still hope for tomorrow.
Amen for that. Absolutely.
Right? But thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate your time, your collaboration, and I hope that our audience does understand the message that has been delivered today here on Wings of Love. And my biggest message is always give wings of love to your children.
Yes, that's so important. Without them, it won't give me the motivation what I'm doing today. My kids, they're my inspiration.
Exactly. That's right. All right. Well, I'm not going to hold you more, but thank you so very much for your time. And, let's keep our community healthy mentally, and let's keep our community together, united. And we need to somehow bring our families out of this situation. That this administration is trying to be tyrannical and dictating, a fascism type of situation. And we have to talk about it. We have to talk about it because it is going to bring horrible things to us, and history itself will replay itself if we don't do something about it. So we had to talk about it. It had to be said, and it was said. So to our audience and to everybody that's been watching, we've been coming through. We've been broadcasting live through Dimensión Latina FM. And we are in Chicago. And we thank you, Fres Oquendo, for having been our guest today and everything that you're doing in the community. Thank you.
Goodbye,
everybody, have a good night. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Aquí llegamos con nuestra programación en vivo. Gracias por tu sintonía. Dimensión Latina FM, tu radio por internet.